Of all the nomadic empires, none were as surprising as the Mongols. In the 13th century, one of history's really unlikely twists, this group of illiterate nomads that numbered only about 700,000 people created the biggest land based empire in human history. So, bigger than Rome, bigger than Persia, bigger than Han China, bigger than Alexander the Great's Greek Empire. So, what we're looking at now is a map of the Mongol Empire at their high point, and it stretched from the Pacific coast of Asia all the way to Eastern Europe. So, the Mongol Empire would include China, Korea, Central Asia, Russia, much of the Islamic Middle East, and parts of Eastern Europe. So, for people living in advanced civilizations, the rise of the Mongols was totally shocking. So, the other empire that really expanded aggressively during the post classical period was the Islamic Empire, the Umayyad and the Abbasid. But the Mongols weren't like the Arabs because they weren't really interested in spreading their religion. They did have their own religious beliefs, and their religious beliefs involved worshipping ancestors. The Mongols had shamans who they believed were able to predict the future and communicate with the spirit world. The Mongols did believe in a high creator, and this was the same creator that the Xiongnu believed in, and Turkic-speaking people, and they referred to the creator as Tendri. But the Mongols made no effort to spread their spiritual beliefs to conquered peoples. So, with Islam, you have conquered people given an opportunity to integrate into Islamic society by converting to Islam. The Mongols weren't really interested in accepting conquered outsiders into Mongol civilization, so conquered people stayed conquered people and were generally not treated very well. Usually, world historians focus on large-scale and long-term processes of change when trying to explain what happened in history. But with the Mongols, historians often focus on just one guy. So 12th century Mongolia, the tribes are fragmented and constantly at war with each other. And we have a young guy named Temujin who would later become Genghis Khan. And he didn't seem like he would be the most likely leader. His father was a minor chief in a small tribe, and he was poisoned to death before Temujin turned 10 years old. So Temujin grew up poor. He would become the leader of his tribe, but his tribe was pretty weak. One advantage that he did have is that he was very charismatic and good at building alliances with other people. In one conflict against another tribe, Temujin actually got funding from China to support his army. So that's something that China did fairly often. They were always interested in keeping nomads who were a threat to them fighting against each other instead of fighting against China. So Temujin built alliances, won battles against other tribes, gained followers, and by 1206 he had successfully united the feuding tribes of Mongolia and earned the name Genghis Khan, or Supreme Conqueror. So, after unifying the tribes, Genghis Khan needed to focus the tribes on a common enemy to create some unity in the new extended tribe, and also to give people that were following him a reason to continue following him. So, the Mongolian nomads, they had a long history of extorting money from China, so he needed to show the Mongols that if they followed him, they would be rewarded. So, in 1209, Genghis Khan embarked on a military expedition against China, and this would set in motion a war between China and the Mongols that would last for 60 years or so. So, how to explain the expansion of the Mongols? First off, when the Mongols started, they didn't have any grand plans to take over the entire world. Everything just kind of grew out of its own momentum, including Genghis Khan's own ambition. Every time the Mongols conquered a new territory, they got more resources, and often they got more troops. But they were always fearful of rebellion and attack, so If they didn't keep expanding, they believed they'd be attacked by the civilizations that they were pressing upon as they got bigger and bigger. So they kept fighting, and they just kept winning battle after battle. So that by the time of his death, Genghis Khan thought of himself as being on some sort of universal mission to unite the whole world in a Mongol empire. So, how did they defeat these more powerful civilizations, like China, for example? China had 100 times as many people as the Mongols. China had better technology. China was way richer. But really, the key to Mongol victory was in their army, which was just better led, better organized, and more disciplined than the armies they were fighting. The Mongols, like other nomadic empires before them, they were experts on horseback and experts with a bow and arrow. Their lifestyle really depended on it. But if you think about these skills, they translate really well into being a warrior. But the Mongols were also very well organized militarily. They divided their military into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 warriors. And when a new tribe was conquered, its people were broken up and spread among existing military units, so they wouldn't be put in a unit together. And there were a few ways that Genghis Khan ensured that his troops were well disciplined and would be loyal to him. One of the things was that Genghis Khan always prided himself on fighting alongside his soldiers, wearing the same clothes as them, eating the same food as them, and basically living the same lifestyle as any Mongolian soldier. There are also more sinister things that he did to ensure compliance. So, for example, if one person deserted their unit of 10, the entire unit would receive the death penalty. As Mongols conquered more territory, they incorporated conquered people into their army. Nomads from other tribes, so a lot of Turkic people were incorporated into the cavalry, and farmers were incorporated into the infantry. So there were accounts of how Genghis Khan would use conquered people as human shields when attacking new cities, and how he would use conquered people or prisoners to fill in moats surrounding cities that had moats. So the Mongols used psychological warfare to strike fear in their enemies. When dealing with enemies, Genghis Khan's policy was clear. Whoever submits shall be spared. Those who resist will be destroyed, along with their wives, children, and dependents, so that the others who hear and see should fear and not act the same. So Genghis Khan was always scared that conquered territories would rise up and rebel, and he thought that if a conquered territory was going to be hard to manage, he would simply destroy the region's entire population. So in the post-classical period before the Mongols, we had some major civilizations. Chinese culture and Buddhism connected East Asia. Christianity brought some cohesiveness in Europe, and Islam really connected everything in between Christian Europe and China. What the Mongols did was bring all of these three regions into one single interacting network. So, contribution of the Mongols is they stimulated direct contact between these civilizations all over Eurasia. So when the Mongols created their massive empire, they facilitated trade. They knew that trade generated wealth, and the Mongols would take measures to improve trade throughout the empire, and did what they could to make it safe. Along the major trading routes, the Mongols would set up relay stations that would be no more than a one-day ride on horseback apart. Probably the most famous, well-known merchant who traded during the Mongol Empire was Marco Polo, and according to him, there were over 10,000 of these stations. So merchants were allowed to rest at these stations. They could sleep there. They could store their goods free of charge. The Mongols were also generally tolerant of other religions. Mongols were fine with Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Taoism, so long as these religions didn't become the foundation of a political rebellion against the empire. So this policy of religious toleration let Muslims in conquered Persian Empire seek converts in the Mongol troops, and we know that, or we'll see that eventually these Mongol troops in the Persian Empire would become Muslims. The Mongol policy towards Christians living in territories previously ruled by Muslims gave Christians more freedom and generally a higher standard of living. So there were some positive things that came out of it for some people. One of Genghis Khan's successors even arranged for a debate among representatives of several religious faiths, and at the end of the debate he concluded that just as God gave different fingers to the hand, so has he given different ways to men.